Hey guys, welcome back to the channel Everyday Carry for the Everyday Guy. So today's video is going to be about red dots, and it's going to kind of be like a before you buy video about red dots, where I'm going to outline certain things that you might want to consider before you purchase yourself a red dot. Now my firearm is going to be in frame quite a bit. Just want to show you this gun is empty and safe. And then I also may or may not use a blades and triggers training pistol. This is a 19X. This is not a real pistol, and as you can see, it is safe. Okay, so before we talk about things to consider before you buy a red dot, we have to understand how a red dot works. And through the advantages given to us through modern videography, I'm going to show you what a red dot is and is not supposed to look like. If you've never looked through a red dot before, in about 5 seconds you're going to know what it looks like. Now what you're going to see is what your eyes would do if you were to focus on the dot, the front sight, the rear sight, and then the threat. The threat is what you want to focus on when using a red dot. Why do people not focus on the threat? Because A, their training tells them that they should be focusing on the front sight. B, they've just picked up the dot and they're looking for it, right? So they look at the actual optic housing itself. They look at this glass expecting to see a red dot. And see what happens then is when they don't, their eyes shuttle between these 2 points. Okay, so in the B-roll, you will see where my hand is where the camera's focus is, and it's going to do exactly what your eyes would do. If I'm focusing on the front side, that dot that should be super sharp looks very washed out. As I bring my hand closer to the actual optic housing and to the rear side, you'll see it gets even more washed out. Now, once I take my hand away and it focuses on the target or the threat, all of a sudden that dot becomes a laser beam, and that is how you should be focusing. Now, I want to stress, everything I say about red dots in this video, nothing is more important and more useful than that ability to threat focus. Threat focusing is something human beings have done before the invention of firearms. Okay, it's one of our most ingrained ways of surviving. Obviously, we had to change that in order to cater for the sighting system on modern firearms. But what's more natural for us is to threat focus. So, having said that, and now you know how to use a red dot, do you want a red dot? Okay, let's start off with the cost. So, most modern red dots in South Africa are going to cost between, I would say, 5 to 12,000 Rand. 12,000 Rand being on the high end, 5,000 Rand being where most things sit. I think it's only the Trigicon RMR and the SRO that are in the 12,000 Rand range. Everything else is between 5 and 6 grand, give or take. That's kind of what you want to expect to pay. And the way I look at it is buy a red dot as if it was going to be a parachute. Right? If you walked into the store and you were going to buy a parachute, you wouldn't buy the least expensive or the most untested one. Now, the one I'm running on my firearm is a Sightmark Mini Shot M-Spec. Okay? Things you want to look out for are duty use, M-Spec, lifetime warranty, that kind of thing. Things that suggest the product has quality and backing from the manufacturer. This particular dot, I don't know what I can do more to it to test its reliability. I've done pretty much everything. I've slammed it into wooden frames. I've dropped it. I've obviously shot it hundreds and hundreds, actually thousands of times. It's proved reliable to me, so I'm happy with this particular dot. But anything like, you know, from guys like Hollow Sun, Trigicon, Aimpoint, Leopold, they're all at this point in time going to function pretty much as stipulated. The days of the old Trigicons where you had to like mess with the base of the dot in order for the battery contacts to make contact, those days are over. Like if they're from a reputable manufacturer, they're pretty much, you know, going to function as it says in the box, unless you abuse it, which is what we'll get to later. So initial cost, you're looking at nothing under 5,000 Rand. Okay, don't go under 5,000 Rand in my opinion. But there are extra costs. You've got to mount this guy. Now, I recommend either getting an MOS or having your slide milled. The reason is you want this optic as low on the slide as possible. You do have to zero your dot to a particular distance, okay? I do mine to 25 meters because that is generally what I find to be self-defense range, 25 and in. Okay, it's very rare that a self-defense situation happens beyond 30, 40, 50 meters. Whether you're shooting red dots or irons, once you get out to those distances with a pistol it becomes very difficult or very complicated to hit a target, especially if a target is moving, and in self-defense situations, very often the target is moving. So I zero mine for 25 meters, and that's pretty much a good zero for me. It gives me very good accuracy from 25 meters in, and I'd say up to about 40 meters, I'm able to hit what I'm aiming at, with a fair degree of accuracy. Further than that, I just haven't trained further than that. I haven't trained to shoot something 50, 60, 70, 80, 100 meters. So I don't want to comment unintelligently. Okay. So that's the cost of the dot and the cost of the slide adjustments. Then you've got these backup iron sights, okay? What's going to happen is if you buy a red dot, your standard iron sights are not going to be high enough. This is a 1-to-1 replica. You can see the sights on the 19X are just too low. What would happen is if my dot went down, I would not be able to see that dot and these two bars through the optic window, which effectively means my irons are useless. So you do want to set a backup iron sights, and all this comes into cost. Right? So just remember that. Like, it's not just the cost of the dot, it's the cost of the irons, the slide milling, the recoating of the slide afterwards. You'll need to reset-coat that slide. So these are things to bear in mind if you're deciding to buy yourself a red dot. So next we're going to talk about holsters. So most modern holsters are going to cater for a firearm with a red dot straight out of the bat. This is a last line defense holster, one of the best as far as I'm concerned. And this suits, this caters for a red dot, so you're good to go. However, there are some holsters that don't. So if you have a holster that doesn't cater for a red dot, you're probably going to have to buy yourself a new holster. Case in point, so this is one of my Shinobi Kydex holsters, really, really good holster, but was designed for me before I got the dot. Okay, this is actually designed for the PL Mini 2. This will not fit my firearm because, okay, so my firearm with a PL Mini 2, and as you can see, it's really tight. And it's tight for two reasons. One, this doesn't cater for a firearm with a red dot, and two, the heightened iron sights. This sight channel is too shallow for the heightened iron sights. So you're probably going to have to buy yourself a new holster when you get yourself a red dot. So consider that in the cost as well. And then also a very important cost is training. You're going to want to invest in training almost immediately when you get your red dot. What do I mean by that? When you go to mount this thing, or when you get it back from the gunsmiths who mount it for you, you want to go straight to your local shooting range and put 200 or 300 rounds through it for two reasons. One, you want to make sure this guy is solid, right? And that you don't lose zero. And two, you want to make sure that zero is where you want it. You want the ability to put a round where the dot is. That's important, okay? So I would say to go from not owning a red dot to comfortably owning a red dot. If you're going to buy anything in the 5,000 to 7,000 Rand range, bank on actually spending about 10,000 to 12,000 Rand, right? That's the cost of running a red dot properly. I'm not a big fan of those dovetail mounts. I actually know someone who had a 507C on a dovetail mount. Very first shot, the LED, I don't know if you can see this, there's an LED inside here. Can you see that little light over it, just there, right? That light emitting diode emits a dot onto this glass, and you look through it and that's a dot you see. Anyway, 507C on one of those dovetail mounts, things set like that high above the frame of the slide, and first shot, bam, the LED came loose. Now, was it because of the dovetail mount? I don't know. I do know that the 507C is a really, really high quality red dot, and they really do work. So you could have just been unlucky, and that's the next thing you got to think about. Go and shoot your dot immediately, because you don't want to be that guy who finds out that your dot doesn't work when you need it to work. That is a double-edged sword. You never know when it's not going to work, which is why you want your backup iron sights, right? But at least if you are shooting it often and you've put a few thousand rounds through it, like I have through this one, and you've tested it and you've beaten it, as I said, there's not much more I can do to this dot to prove its reliability to me. You have a fair degree of reliability and confidence that the dot's going to be there when you expect it to be there. So those are the costs and almost like the cons of owning a red dot. The pros, and this pro outweighs everything, all the cons. Threat focusing, right? I spoke about it early on. Threat focusing is the best way to shoot a firearm accurately, in my opinion. I tested this. I was on a course where I was helping a group of ladies, myself and James Mott and a few other of his instructors. And the particular woman who was shooting my firearm had never held a firearm before. And I gave her like a 10-minute course in what she should do with her eyes, focus on the target, not the dot, not anything on the firearm, and put that glowing dot where you want the round to go. All she has to, and I told her, all you have to do then is don't anticipate the shot, right? Don't do that when you shoot in anticipation of the upward recoil. She shot the tightest grouping. I think there were like 4 or 5 shots. I think she fired like 30 rounds. There were like 4 or 5 shots that went through the same hole. And she was way more accurate than the other people on the course who were shooting with irons. Now, this wasn't a marksmanship course. It wasn't a measure of who can shoot accurately. It was just introducing this group of ladies to the fact that the firearm is a tool that is not going to kill you if you treat it properly. You know, it's not just going to develop a mind of its own, point itself at you and shoot you. If with proper weapons handling, a firearm is a life-saving tool. So it wasn't a marksmanship course. It just coincidentally happened that this woman used the red dot correctly, and it sort of proved to me and a few other people who were there that shooting with a red dot is, if you buy into it and do it properly, it's a very, very accurate way and a very, very fast way of shooting. Case in point, most sport shooters these days are running red dots. What is the key requirement of sport shooting? Speed and accuracy. What is the key requirement in a gunfight? Speed and accuracy. Also, target tracking, lateral tracking. Once you pick up your dot, it's very easy to follow a moving target or to move and keep your dot on the target. It's a lot easier than with iron sights. And let me break this down to you into what exactly you need to do with iron sights in case you aren't sure. With iron sights, right, you've got 3 or 4 optic planes you've got to pay attention to. The rear sight, the front sight, and your targets, let's say 3. Okay, the one you're focusing on the most is the front sight. Okay, you've got to line the front sight, and usually these are 3 dots. You've got to line this dot in the center of these 2 dots so that they're equidistant apart and are on the same height. So all these 3 dots must line up on all planes, X and Y. Okay, once that is so, your shot will be accurate. Now, the main focus will be on your front sight. So your target or your threat will be blurred, and your rear sight will be somewhat blurred. Now, that's a lot of effort for your eyes to go through under duress. Under duress, people become, for lack of a better word, very stupid. I've been there. I've been in stressful situations. I've been hijacked. I've been in Muay Thai full contact fights. I understand that when stress kicks in, everything your coach is telling you in the corner to cover up, to throw knees, kicks, elbows, whatever, you don't hear a single thing. The simplest thing becomes super difficult to do. There are people who can't open their hand. I was on a course and it was designed to build stress. And one of the things I had to do was drop pepper spray and transition to my firearm. The first time I did it, I could not open my hand to drop the pepper spray, right? That is how stress affects you. So to tell someone they've got to, press this gun out, line up all these things, do all these things with their eyes while under a life-threatening situation is very difficult. Now, is it possible? Of course. People do it, I would almost say daily, right? But it takes a lot of training, and it's, in my opinion, counterintuitive. The red dot basically says, overlay this thing onto your target. Focus on the thing that's about to kill you and get that red dot on it. Once it's there, wherever that dot is where the round's going to go. So then it all comes down to that, a proper trigger press so that you don't move this around when you're pulling your trigger. So there is great value to red dots. Night vision as well. This guy at night is better than any night vision sights you're going to possibly get. That does lead to one other thing though. You've got to be able to adjust the intensity of your red dot. This is for up, this is for down. This has 10 intensity settings. What I mean by that, if you put this on the highest intensity setting and it's a pitch black room and you aim down the sight, that reflection from the glass is going to almost completely wash out that dot. Now you can still see where the hot spot is, but it's not ideal. So I keep mine on 4 at night and 6 during the day. So I know it's 2 up, 2 down. It's part of my body mechanics so that I can do it underneath my clothing. So if I walk into a theater and it's super dark, I can subconsciously double tap my down button and I know it's going to drop 2 levels, and that's sort of my night mode. Another thing, battery operated. You're going to have to come to terms with the fact that this is a battery operated piece of kit. There's probably more electronics in here and more complicated mechanisms in the small sighting system than in this whole firearm. So you're going to have to maintain it, clean it every once in a while, replace the battery at least once a year. These batteries last about 5 years. I replace mine once a year. Why not? You know, these things cost like $40 here in South Africa. It's dirt cheap. Now, here's the thing. If you're someone who doesn't want to do that, then a red dot isn't for you, okay? If you are someone who wants to take their firearm, stick it in the holster, and be good to go and not do any kind of added maintenance other than to clean the internals post-shooting, then a red dot just isn't for you. There's nothing wrong with that, right? It's cool with it. It's okay for a red dot to not be for everyone. There's this huge social media outcry that says, you know, you either on the red dot side or you against the red dot. You know, it's not for everyone. I follow Pat McNamara on social media. If you don't know who he is, Google Pat McNamara. If there's anybody I'd want in a fight, it would be Pat McNamara, right? I saw him quite recently posting some videos of him shooting with an aim-point acro. Now, if he's buying into the red dot sight concept, then there's got to be some value there. Guys like Aaron Cowell from Sage Dynamics, a real deal guy, great YouTube channel. Definitely follow him. I think he mentioned like 2 years ago that in the US, various law enforcement departments were looking into the concept of running red dots because of the advantages. So there definitely is really useful advantages to running red dots, but like I say, they are not for everyone. If you aren't going to purchase the proper one, if you aren't going to look for words like mil spec, rugged, lifetime warranty, that kind of thing, then it's not for you. If you aren't prepared to clean it, to maintain it, to understand the concept that this thing requires a battery, buy the heightened iron sights, get your slide milled correctly, have it mounted properly, test it properly. If that's something you're willing to do, then perhaps a red dot is not for you, and that's cool. So if you are sitting at home thinking, you know, I've got the cash, do I want to buy this? I hope this video helped. And I hope it also helped you maybe realize some of the things that you didn't know about what the future would be like owning a red dot. It's a very useful sighting system. It is a tool just like everything else. It is subject to breakage. It also requires maintenance, can get quite pricey, but it is also something that, in my opinion, is probably going to be the future of sighting systems. We're seeing it on long guns already. We're seeing it on assault rifles, that kind of deal. They wouldn't have moved to that system if it didn't work. And I think, you know, sooner rather than later, we're going to start seeing red dots almost sold as packaged with firearms, you know, like instead of buying a Glock MOS with just the plates, they're going to sell it with an actual dot. I don't think we're far off from that. So that's my 2 cents on it. Guys, I hope this video helped. If it's something you like, and if this channel is something you like, it's all about EDC, maybe leave a like, maybe subscribe, and hopefully we can make more videos that you enjoy. That's it, guys. Have a good one. I'll see you soon. Be safe. Cheers. God bless.